so no worries.
That will be amazing. Okay, so we are live on YouTube now. I'm just making sure all of our YouTube settings are good to go here.
I love it. We have Germany, multiple Germanys, New Zealand, UK, Austria, Delaware, West Virginia. Amazing.
Yes, welcome everybody.
Hola, Ruth, Puerto Rico. Beautiful.
We are so excited to be here with you. So come on in if you're on Zoom live, if you're on YouTube live, or if you're watching this later as a recording. We are just super excited to have you here. And this is a presentation of the Quantum School, where we take a stand for global sovereignty and sacred financial freedom. We are so honored to bring you beautiful free offerings like this one today, as well as groundbreaking courses from visionary leaders and global thought leaders. I'm Jocelyn Starfeather, founder of Sacred Planet and the Quantum School. And I have to say that gatherings like this one would not be possible without all of you who are attending. So thank you all so much for being here. And everything we do in the Quantum School would not be possible without Kathleen and Anna, our amazing multi-galactic course managers. Kathleen could not be live with us today, but she's watching, and Anna is right here. So thank you, Anna, for all the magic that you do. And we are just delighted today to be here with VerDarLuz CelestiOwl. So welcome, Ver. Thank you so much for this amazing presentation that you're bringing us today on building the Starchetypal village. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing today?
Um, I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very happy for neighbors, and we're going to talk about that and how important our neighbor relationships are.
That is so important to me. Yes. So I will just share a little bit about your work, Ver, as we're getting started, and then I will turn it right over to you. So everybody, welcome in and come and meet VerDarLuz CelestiOwl if you're not already familiar with his work. After his double lung collapse at the tender age of 17, Ver committed to seize the day and take the deep dive into life. He is a traveler to 47 countries, author of 3 books, including Codex of the Soul, and that is always the #1 astrology book that I recommend to everybody, and Aquarius Dawns, and creator of the Divine Timing Online School. VerDarLuz uniquely blends systems of self-awareness, such as evolutionary astrology, human design, and shamanic therapies, into his holistic life and visionary business coaching practice. And in this presentation today, Building the Starchetypal Village, I am just super excited to hear what you will share with us. Ver, I know this is such a visionary idea and this incredible blend that you bring of the ancient wisdom, modern technology, and this really, really visionary perspective on what is possible for us. So with that, I will turn it over to you, and I'm going to turn my video off so all focus can be on you, but I am right here if you need any technical or administrative support.
Awesome. Thank you, Jocelyn. And just it's such an honor to be a part of the Quantum School. And again, Kathleen, Anna, the whole team, Jocelyn, like amazing. And this community is so blessed to have all of these teachers and teachings being transmitted, and the offering that you present to everyone is really a gift. And it's part of this new economy that we are trying to slowly move into and embrace collectively, that we're going to talk about reciprocal gifting, being able to come from a place of abundance, and not scarcity. So I'm just so pleased to be a part of this. Yeah.
Well, we are so happy to have you here. And yeah, go ahead, take it away.
All right. So I got a slideshow here, but we're also going to do a bit of visioning together. And so we'll talk about some of the cycles and give some context from the most micro to the most macro of what's happening on the planet right now. And we're going to vision into the future. And this is so important because without being able to imagine our future, we can't create it. And all of the cycles right now are telling us and teaching us and inviting us to really open into a radical imagination, really, truly radical. And so this is our opportunity today. And we're planting a seed for you to do this more and more in your own communities as we make these Micro-Starchetopias. So let's begin with this slideshow here, and I'll just make sure everything is working. Let me share the screen and we shall begin. And I just want to invite you too, as I know we're living a very distracted society. It's something we're going to talk about. So just take this sacred time together. And we have this beautiful tribe. We're going to do some visionary practice together. Just let everything else go. And there's so much that can just open from even just a few of these slides. That's my hope. And so I want to invite you to just be really present here today, and make this an invitation for sacred presence. So I'd like to take you on a journey now through a time machine. And we're going to journey into 2030, just 5 years from now. So I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, maybe place a hand on your heart as we go within and we journey ahead. And so taking a deep breath, I'd like to invite you to imagine that there is a door in front of you. And it's a wooden door and it's beautiful with carvings, patterns, very ornate, maybe very old. And it crackles as you touch it and feel the panels. It feels like a magic doorway and it's opening now as you touch it. It's opening into the year 2030. And there are different versions ahead of you of this year, but you feel magnetized, pulled towards this version where we did everything we possibly could. We did every step we could make to heal this planet. And so it's a future that we yearn for. Something that feels like we accomplished it, we did it, and we're doing it. And it feels so alive and so vibrant as we step into this 2030 and we start to walk through and feel our senses awaken. What does the world here smell like? What do you feel on your skin? What do you sense in the air? What's on the tip of your tongue? What can you hear? What kind of new sounds are here? And just feeling yourself opening to the landscape, the neighborhood, the friends and beloveds and children all around you. Notice what's happening. Notice the gardens, the conversations, the play, the exchanges, the creations. And just breathe it in here for a moment. Invite yourself to give real attention to what you're feeling and sensing here and to bring it back. To bring it back to this group, to your tribe. I'm just going to share a little bit about what I've seen the more I've done this exercise, and it's practice. And just like any practice, the more that you do it, the clearer and more crystalline the images become, and the future feels so much more vital and real. So one of the things that I've found is how much louder the bird song is. How we can hear the conversations happening with our neighbors. We can sense all of these different smells, like an herb garden is all around us. And you can look into people's eyes again and have full conversations there without saying a word. But there's a sense that we've done this, we're doing this. There's excitement and exhilaration and possibility. And it feels historic. It feels like we are making memories every day. Memories that our future selves would be thankful for. And there's biodiversity coming back everywhere. new kinds of plants and trees and herbs and foods being grown. It's kind of this public luxury. We feel like there's so much abundance all around us. And it is a greater sense of us rather than I. And we can sense like people's mental health is returning. They're not afraid to show up in their fullest expression and to play again. It's like the children have taught the adults to laugh and smile. And then there's so many bicycles, and I don't see many cars. I see rush hours of bicycles, and that we're fitter and that we're healthier, and the air is so much cleaner, and there's a kind of safety we feel wherever we are. And children are riding bikes to school, and there's a rooftop revolution happening. There's this whole parallel world occurring on the rooftops with gardening and farming. And if you climb the spiral staircases to the rooftops, you see that one of the newest, coolest jobs of the future is to be a rooftop urban farmer, a salad grower. And there's bridges and walkways and bike paths from one rooftop to another, and there's cafes and yoga studios and meditation spots way above the villages and the towns. And there's this kind of analog renaissance where we've really wanted to detach from our digital media so much and just walk around again and laugh again with each other and play circus games on the streets and debate ideas with each other and have real councils where we're looking in each other's eyes and making decisions for all of us and the next 7 generations. Tables where people are cooking for each other and talking and laughing and feeding each other, and we don't see the same kind of poverty and homelessness. We don't see the extremes of wealth. In fact, it's really looked down upon, that kind of exploitative wealth, like a weakness of character. But instead, we have cooperatives where we're all choosing together to participate, to co-create in our neighborhoods, in our schools. And we'll feel like we're in this transitioning into art made alive every day in the streets. We no longer feel cynicism. We feel hope. We feel vision and direction and motivation. We feel so much more alive together, remembering our future together. So I'm going to invite you to take back your vision and all your senses from 2030. And we're going to allow some moments to share that in the chat, just to share how you're feeling, what's moving through you. And to know that these are some of the seeds that we're planting, these what if seeds, what could be possible as we move into a vision of what Starchetypal can be. And here's just a brief opening into this, and we'll talk more as we go. Starchetypal is a visionary civilization where each of the 12 zodiac villages serves as a unique biome of learning, of culture, of experimentation, of ritual, of education and spiritual evolution, guided by the archetypal energies of the zodiac. Just take in this image for a minute. What happens to you when you see these kinds of waterways and parkways and domes with theatrical space to play and perform in? the trees, the hillsides. So moving out of that dystopian vision that we keep getting pushed down our throats with, even through all the arts and the media, most of it. And not talking about utopia, about the non-place, about a place that doesn't exist or is just a fantasy, but this protopia, this process of making a place. Protopia. Guided by the stars, guided by the archetypes, the Starchetypes. And there's so many visions we can create together as artists, as writers, as painters, as photographers, as designers, that each of us are so alive in this process of co-creating this together. Everyone has a different skill set to bring. And all visions of the future start with this seed of the imagination. And just a peek into one idea here is thinking of the 12 sectors, the 12 houses of the zodiac as different educational spaces for us. Imagine you go into the Aries second sector, the second house of values and currency, and at that village, they're learning how to exchange value based on willingness to take bold, embodied action, leadership skills. And so currency becomes about the initiatives one takes, igniting social ecological action. It's an ember token. And so you risk yourself into challenging the systems to move forward. Or you think about the Aquarian currency of idea-based credits for open source contributions, systems innovation, and tech for all projects. This is using AI and other technologies to serve the collective and to future plan, and then take our steps forward and back. And so each of the signs could have a different kind of currency that they start to exchange in. And we start to teach our children how to build values around these different archetypes. This is just one example of how we could apply this model in a new kind of education across generations. So within Starchetypal, we also have a foundation in what's called AstroTheology, where we take the principles of as above, so below, that what the heavens have inscribed upon our hearts can be embodied in practice. And the mystic traditions can be woven into the zodiac themes. And so we give this education where we connect the perennial traditions from all the sacred traditions, the mystic traditions, from Sufism to Shaiva Tantra to Buddhism to Hinduism to the Bhagavad Gita to Stoicism and the great philosophies of the world. And we weave them into their correspondences with the different signs. And so we bring that perennial truth to our education now. So, where are we now? How do we make this threshold, this transition, this crossing of the shore into Starchetypal? So just take this image in for a moment and see what it does to you. Beautiful little villages here, all with their magic in the center stage. Just see how this kind of plants a possibility of how we could design. And if we move out of where we are, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time here, but I think it's so important to set the stage that we're in a very critical moment. I've just been at the Future of Wealth Summit, and one of the things is that I've learned a lot about the global financial situation and where people are investing and how to protect their assets as the de-dollarization continues to happen. It's very systematic what's happening. And we're moving into a space where digital IDs are going to be more and more required, especially if we want to do things like fly. This is happening all over Europe, the UK, the US. And if you don't know much about it, you can research it. But it's going to require that we make more intentional decisions and bring up a question of our relationship to globalization versus localization. This is happening as well with stocks being so volatile and crypto being very speculative and the potential of AIs to replace jobs. And we have this new relationship with a super intelligence. And we don't know what that means yet. So we're going to have to get very creative about the most conscious ways of integrating our AI. And we're also going to see that so many of our youth are distraught, disassociated, disconnected, and they feel worse about themselves after they're on social media. And they want to get off, but it's kind of like this umbilical cord, right? And we know that there's great mental health crisis, especially for the youth. So we need to address this. This book here is about 5 possible climate futures and different worlds that we could move into depending on the choices we make now. And I really, really recommend Andrew's work and to listen to Andrew Hudson. I won't spend much time here, but just to point out that there is a ridiculousness in terms of how we work with the global supply trade. And that what's happening all over the world, like in Spain, the world's main producer of oranges, they consume more oranges from South Africa than they produced. But then Spanish oranges are exported to the UK, Germany, and Norway. And we could go down the list that all of these resources are exported out and imported in, and it makes no sense and is taking all the resources of the planet. And this is a very systematic and systemic problem that is called globalization. And so we're going to look at this deeply. But I want to set the stage for what needs to transition by where we are astrologically. So this is a very critical moment of the year. It's a moment where we make big decisions about how we're going to work with our personal and collective ego, because this is the time when the sun and Mercury, Mars right now, they start to move into Ophiuchus, the 13th constellation, which is Asclepius, the Greek god of healing, and by extension, the shaman of the zodiac. You can see he is the serpent bearer, wrestling with the serpent of the unconscious, of the ego, the desires for separation versus the desires for return to unity and wholeness. And this is so important because of what is happening with Neptune and Saturn, Uranus and Pluto. So we're going to try to make this brief, and there's so much to say about this, but I just want to give you the context of why we need to vision something so much more powerful and take action into that. Neptune started its journey into Aries this year and is going back into Pisces today. It's retrograde today, so it's very much near there. And Saturn is moving back into Pisces. We're getting this last moment of the last part of the zodiac. And we're going back into the first sign next year. Right? We got a hint of that this year. Now we're retrograde. And so we have to consider that Neptune in Aries, and we'll talk about Saturn too, is that we have a vision and a dream, Neptune, an idealization of the future. We have to take it as an adventure. And there could be a lot of competitive warrior energies in this, right? Or it can be a completely new paradigm of spirituality on society. It could be related to exo-society or alien intelligence. Look at what's happening with Atlas 3I. Nobody knows what this thing is. It's not a comet. It's not behaving like a comet, right? And is this a precursor of a kind of opening to galactic intelligences? If you haven't been following it, definitely check out the latest videos about Atlas 3I. It's incredible, and it opens our consciousness further, and that's what's happening. but we have to take initiative ourselves under an Aries transit. This is a 14-year transit coming in. And the last time Neptune was in Aries was during the Civil War. And the last time Uranus was in Gemini, and Uranus went in a little bit and is going back into Taurus and back into Gemini for 7 years in 2026. The last time that happened was World War II. And also during the Civil War. This is significant, right? Because maybe there is going to be a break. Maybe the United States will be more divided states so that those regions can become more united in their purpose together, in their local purposes together. Maybe that's part of the rebirth of this country. The US just had its Pluto return. And so when Saturn and Neptune come together, there is a feeling of like, it could be depressive, it could be a disillusionment, it could be disappointment, but it also becomes like, whoa, we have to do something about this. We have to take the reins. We have to channel spirit through daily action. And we have to be more forgiving and more compassionate and ground that into our practices and our communities. And so as these planets go back into Pisces, we have to dream into, we have to imagine what if. And then Saturn, we have to do the work to heal the personal and collective psyches. And so we have to take this spiritual courage. We have to dream build and world build together. And this is this idea of spiritual pragmatism meets urgent action. We have to all become activists, essentially, when Saturn and Neptune are in Aries. We can't be passive. And so we have to turn towards each other. We have to take spirituality into the streets and build local resilience. And as Uranus is in Gemini, the next 7 years, this is a revolution in our minds, in perception itself. There's so many things we could talk about in terms of the history of this cycle. But again, it happened during World War II, but what happened after that was the Roswell incident, one of the first reported UFO sightings. Interesting. But there's always been this huge technological advancement, and including Galileo with the first telescopes to open our consciousness to the further reaches of the solar system, right? And that's going to happen with all of NASA's missions, and maybe with Atlas 3I right now. We have to be prepared for that. But also, it's not just intelligences out there, it's this super intelligence on the planet with AI, and what that's going to mean for all of us, and how we're going to have to adapt and integrate this consciously and positively. And what it's going to mean to have virtual and augmented realities and these glasses that were sold that have the internet right here. And we're going to be with people like this, but we're not going to be interacting in the same way. And is that what we want to live into, or are there other possibilities? We're going to have these neuro interfaces, and we're going to have to learn how to adapt to rapid change, because all of these planets, Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, and Pluto, are now going to be in air signs and fire signs, masculine signs that move very quickly. And so we're going to have to learn how to network our democracies and use blockchain, if that's crypto, local currencies, and create digital commons where we can interact with each other and participate, participatory action, right? This is a different kind of democracy. And education itself is really going to transform under this. We need new innovations, new possibilities, more self-directed, and integration of AI, but not a dependence on it, right? But this is about individualized education. And that's where astrology and human design can come in so strong. So when we move from globalization to localization, we're moving out of this idea of an extractive economy that just continues to take and thinks that it can expand and expand forever, where we aren't living on that kind of planet. And we're moving into this localized regenerative economy, right? Where our culture is built on education in place, in purpose and participation, where our economy is circular and visible. We see the people we're exchanging with, the farmers that are growing our food. We're growing the food ourselves, right? Permaculture and rewilding, restoring biodiversity. Instead of this loneliness and anxiety and competition, we feel a sense of belonging, which is the thing we want the most, reciprocity, and our mental health coming back for all of us. And instead of the GDP, we look at well-being index, more time, more joy, more biodiversity, more meaning over things. And so we're kind of being fed the cyberpunk vision, right? Versus what's called solar punk. And solar punk is this incredible movement that has a lot to do with storytelling. It's about regenerative economies. It's about the worlds we want to live in. And we need more stories that we're all writing, that we're all composing, that we're all painting. And just as an example, if you look at the Virgo archetype, if we move into the future with it, right, we can think that it's all about optimizing efficiency for profit and micromanaged algorithmic systems. That's a very cyberpunk, become more like the machine. But if we move it into solar punk, then the precision that we can bring is applied to soil care and water systems and shared resources and devotion as service. Or instead of faceless corporations we're a part of, we move into service towards community and the earth as interdependence. And worry is transmuted into care and rituals of purification instead of this anxiety and burnout that the cyberpunk globalized picture is painting for us. And so I've pulled this up for all the different archetypes, right? And this is the transition we need to make. And this is this language, right? Language of the future. And we play with, this is Rob Hopkins, my new hero. I've been to the future and we won. And so we have all of these great examples of this happening right now. We have these incredible communities like Damanhur in Italy, or Oroville in India. We have other eco-villages like the Farm in Tennessee, or Tamara in Portugal, or Sunseed in Spain. And these are some networks you can tune into, and we're going to talk a lot more about later in my training. The Utopia community, look at them online, and the different eco-village models that they're building and sharing, and the different kinds of housing. Look at Common Future, Local Futures, YouTube. This is all about local resilience, and the Global Eco-Village Network, and even the eco-village tours that are starting to happen. And this is a company that's amazing, taking people to different eco-villages in different parts of the world. And another one of my heroes is Jacques Fresco of the Venus Project, which I learned about from the Zeitgeist films more than 10 years ago. And this vision is a vision for moneyless economy, a resource-based economy. And it's a radical way for us to start to revalue our society. There's so much in this, and it's still going, and there's a lot happening with Venus Project today, even though Jacques passed away about 10 years ago. All these beautiful models of new kinds of housing coming up, like the geoships. These are active in California right now. They're resilient to fires, to floods, to hurricanes. They're 100% non-toxic. They resist mold growth and antibacterial. These are incredible. I recommend you start to search them out. And we start to think about biophilia and biomimicry, where we design our homes like nature, biophilia, and we design all of our living and creative processes in a mimicry of what nature does perfectly. And here's a great example from the city of Liège in Belgium. And there's so much to talk about with this, but they said a few years back, what if all of our food was created locally in a single generation. We want to take that as an initiative, and they have. And they're growing all of their own food now, and it's sustainable and it's working. Or you have Freiburg in Germany, where they've gotten rid in certain sections of the city. This is a big city, right? Where there's just no cars. They just don't allow them, right? They're pedestrian walkways. And this continues to happen more and more. And one of the great examples is Totnes, which Rob Hopkins lives, and which is one of the first cities where transition town took place. And this is something I'm really passionate about, is the idea of how we start to create transition cities, transition towns and villages where we are moving towards local sustainability through our farmers markets and our cooperatives and our maybe tiny homes that we have that are sustainable. And the transition network, there's so much happening here. And this is part of bringing that vision into form, Saturn, Neptune, and Aries. So looking at the garden as our greatest creative potential, right? Where we can all feel a kind of creative growth and play and power, and we can teach our children to garden in the backyard. And even here, this beautiful Town Anywhere event that's been created in France and in the UK, where we basically create a one-day workshop that supports all the people that come to experiment with, to go into a lab about the future, planning out 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And this has been very successful, and bringing people in community together to storytell what kind of world they want to live in. A physical representation of the thriving town we're all longing to live in. So they actually build it out, with bamboo and cardboard boxes, and so this is what we have to do, right? And these can happen anywhere now. And these are a few of the solar punk storytelling collections. So these stories do exist of the kind of future we do want to live in. And we want to belong, and Ian Gilchrist talks about this, that for humans to find a meaningful life, we want to belong to a stable and secure community, people, right? That we feel like we share our values with. We want a relationship with the natural world. And we want a relationship with the divine. And we need to re-sacralize our life, make everything sacred again, offer prayers in all that we do. Even to the different parts of the day, we can offer prayers, right? And so what if we considered that we're in an ecological emergency, which we are, and all of our resources need to be directed towards sustainability now? And that's where astrology and human design can be tools for self-awareness, to know our gifts that we can contribute to our communities. And so,
what if we designed a world that learned from the stars?
What if? And this is Starchetypal. It's a shared myth made manifest. It's a vision of a world where education and ecology and enlightenment unite. It's a living constellation of the 12 zodiac villages, each a seed of a new civilization, teaching how to live in harmony with Earth's rhythms and the heavens' design. Together, we are storytelling our future, building transition towns, local economies, and regenerative communities rooted in beauty, resilience, sacred reciprocity, and the attention to each individual's unique archetypal gifts to contribute to these thriving, self-sufficient communities. So Starchetypal it's a map, an initiation. And AstroTheology is a part of this, and it becomes our mystic architecture or Starchetypal, a language of divine timing guiding us back to God conscious awareness in the midst of change. And each participant in Starchetypal is invited to become both a student and a starchitect, to bring their genius, their gifts, and their devotion to the poetic necessity of reweaving our world and our focus. And so what if the children were growing the food they would eat every day and could understand the wisdom of nature's cycles experientially and experimentally?
The overnight growth cycle is showing promising results.
What if we grew food and cataloged the herbs and used AI properly for this? We built out these different kinds of learning environments. Here's an example with Scorpio in the Starchetypal village of Scorpio. What if decay was designed as beautifully as growth? This comes from this idea of the circular economy Amsterdam lab. Urban compost temples, public art installations where waste becomes soil and stories of letting go are composted. Stories are composted. Why? Because Scorpio governs death, rebirth, and truth beneath appearances. And then we could create shadow dialogue circles, facilitated nights where communities name collective fears and re-envision them as power. Or imagine that we have different kinds of economies and each archetype has a different kind of system of currency. Like in Gemini, the wealth comes through words and teaching and wit and connection. And the currency could be talk tokens for speech and stories and jokes that are exchanged for social capital, right? And the economic gesture is about idea sharing, communal innovation, and local myth making. But then shift that into Cancer. And what is Cancer currency? Well, its value is about emotional nourishment. And so care and belonging and ancestral trade tending is what brings wealth. So they have care coins. And these are earned through holding and listening and building home and holding space. And we could play this out over every archetype. This is the possibility. What if?
Om Mani Padme.
What if spiritual mantras were used to practice growing plants in food forests? It's possible. What if our technology went in this direction? And you know, when I taught this training back in during COVID, evolutionary parenting and revolutionary education, this is when this idea of Starchetypal really got seeded, because I knew that we could apply the Mercury position of a child, and it gave us the learning style, the learning environment, the kinds of curriculum that would be most efficient for them to learn under. But we've lacked that knowledge, or the emotional nature with the moon signs, where they can feel safe and secure and content. We also need that even as adults. And this is where we need a village model where we could take kids and ourselves into these different villages to learn the archetypes that their charts are demonstrating, are inviting. And so what if the schools were designed in a way to support the individualized education? And we thought of these different age groups, different skill sets. And we got really creative about this, right? This is the Leo in sector 3 of the chart, or the house 3, the house of education. You could see infants to 7-year-olds dressing up as archetypes to tell feelings through play. You could have a song of the day that children co-create daily chants to celebrate their identity at a young age, right? And Leo in the education sector for 7 to 12-year-olds. It could be a storytelling class where each child builds a personal myth and performs it monthly. Or they role play heroes from various traditions to explore ethics and bravery. Or ages 12 to 18, drama democracy councils, debates and policies enacted as dramatic performances. And education continues, like it never stops, right? And we just have these spirals where those who have those archetypes more developed and defined in their charts and have more years on the planet usually are going to be teaching others, but then the younger kids will be teaching back the others. So it's not a top-down approach. It's archetypes informing each other. It's very multidimensional. And so we could even have AI feeding the birth charts and the specific children's abilities, and we could start to layer them together and create very individualized lesson plans for each child's interests and natural skill sets and accelerate their learning from the very beginning. This is starting to happen a bit with the 2-hour focused learning, 2-hour learning in the alpha schools in the US. This is already starting to take place. Now, I know we don't have a lot of more time for these slides, but I want to just share that one of the things that we might be seeking is, where can I do this? Maybe it's not in my local community. And that's where astrolocality, one of my passions and niches in astrology, is such a great tool for, because it can help you find your tribe and your roots. If you're needing to relocate, if you want to do a retreat somewhere, to find that home and that community that you can connect to. And as we said, Jupiter in Cancer, this is a time where we're wanting this more than anything, to find that secure home and those retreats and those roots. And there are better places to realize our goals. Here's some of the maps that we use. And with human design, there's so much to talk about with this, but it's a beautiful system like astrology that allows us to understand our genetic gifts. And once we can apply this cross-generationally and we bring it into our education, then we can support us living in harmony with each other. We all have different decision-making strategies, a place that gives us clarity inside of us. And we won't go through all this now, but the body graph is such a beautiful tool to reflect our strengths and contributions to the world, what we give off to the world and how we get nurtured from the world. And so we have these evolutionary educational tools like the gene keys as well. And with the beauty of the gene keys, the 64 gene keys that are part of human design, is that they teach us the power of frequency and shadows, and then how we can embrace the gift and how we can embody the mystical power. And this is something I work with a lot with my clients and with teaching, with this shadow play, that we have to understand the lower frequencies of an archetype, of a planet and a sign, or a part of our design or a part of our gene keys. And then we have to express and learn to develop the higher frequency. And one of the ways that we do this is by staying connected to God consciousness. And this is what AstroTheology is about. AstroTheology teaches us that the solar hero and the lunar heroine and the astro traveler is in every one of us. It's encoded into the time itself. Seconds and minutes and hours and days and weeks and months and years are sacred fractals. And as we start to study the mystic traditions and layer them into the astrological archetypes, we can stay connected to source through these mystical paths and these mystical teachings. And so we can bring in all these different traditions, whether it's Christ consciousness, or Rumi and the Sufis, or Shiva, Shaiva Tantra, or Buddha, or Krishna, or the Stoics. And we can bring them into our sacred practice of the archetypes. There's so many words in the tradition that we speak every day that are connected to the stars. And unfortunately, I know we don't have a lot more time to share more about this, but this is one of the core teachings in Starchetypal of how we stay connected to our source through the mystic traditions. We always see the Christ connected to the 12 signs of the zodiac through so many images in history, the solar hero, the Lamb of God born again every year, the Lamb, Aries. There's so many mystical, esoteric teachings in astrotheology. And we see it all over the Bible and the Quran. It is he who placed for you the stars that you may be guided by them through the darkness of the land and sea. And this is in the Quran. And so many of the names were Arabic names of the stars. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. This is astrology. It was given to us by the Holy Spirit. It's encoded in the 4 evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which are connected to Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, and Taurus. And there's so many ways through the fixed stars that we start to tell your story. And it's so interesting to consider that as we build a muscle around visioning the future, it's exactly what's taught about in the Tibetan Vajrayana tradition, which is deity yoga, the highest yoga tantra it's called, where we vision ourselves as a Buddha, as an awakened one. This is Vajrasattva, all about purifying ourselves, which we all need to do right now, right? And it's one of the preliminary practices in Buddhism that you work with Vajrayana to purify yourself, and then you work with this other yidam, or deity, that you want to merge your consciousness with, like the medicine Buddha. And so what do these sacred traditions want to tell you, and how do they live in your chart? Maybe you have a lot of Pisces and connected to the idea of the perceiver, the perceived and the perceiving are one. Where can the mind go where Shiva is not? Or one of the great Aries phrases from the Bhagavad Gita, you have the right to work, but never to the fruit of the work. You should never engage in action for the sake of reward, nor should you long for inaction. And there's so many quotes. There's the Virgo quotes. The entire Gita we can bring into the language of each archetype of the zodiac. As we talked about the 99 names, we won't go through all these right now, but every planet and every sign. And so lastly, I want to share with you about zodiac shadow play and why it's so important for us to do the therapeutic work. And this is part of the Starchetopia vision, that we bring in IFS, internal family systems, and recognize that each of the planets are really parts of us. That's what parts theory is in IFS. And we're going to talk about that more and more in Starchetopia. And that we can find meaning. This is the essence and the crux of logotherapy. What brings us into sacred significance in our life? The stories, narrative therapy that we tell, right? How we frame our experiences. This is something I went deep into my last book, Zodiac Shadow Play. You know, as an example, with all the Scorpio right now, the Stoics would teach you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Don't get disturbed by the things that you can't control. Let go, Scorpio. And then you'll find your true power. And so you can build your own Micro-Starchetopia right now. Right now. Because what we cannot imagine cannot come into being. We have to imagine it. And so what if the revolution was as simple as a farmer's market? And what if those farmers markets could begin and include prayer performances, astrologically inspired rituals and myths and spontaneous circus and dance and live painting and authentic relating and creative superpower sharing, truly mirroring the abundance of our gifts all around us and through our neighbors? And what if those kids could be going daily to those local farms and planting and harvesting the foods that they ate, instead of being distracted into more consumerism on their iPads and their Kindles? And what if we could create councils where every farmer's market, we did a pop-up tomorrow and we vision 5 years or 10 years or 15 years from now? The future must enter into you a long time before it happens, said the great poet Rainer Maria Rilke. The future must enter into you a long time before it happens. And so I'm going to end this presentation with a poem and an invitation for you to just look at this image and feel into Starchetypal, feel into what's possible, what's necessary actually from each one of us. How not to fall, but to rise in love with our future. Longing, it began with this. I desire to know myself. I desire to know myself as myself, my celestial elves. And so I split up my bits of transcendence into multiple dimensional circus theatricals called stars, and all their incarnationals, who are awakening to their own imaginations, radical, mythical, magical. You, starseed, must rise in love with your own sacred longing to belonging. The future is clay in your hands if you remain preparing, praying, your heart pulsing, all storytelling you need to survive, thrive, rise, rise. Remember, I am beating the heart of every being. I am the engine eternal, seed back me in me, source sublime, provider pluralized, return divine. I am Shiv Allah, and I allow knowledge as the wink of the alchemical owl through every plant, animal, stone, and mineral. Human, just perceive only this, the anointed face of the compassionate Christos, and the scripture that flows from the flute of Krishna. Offer everything and you will be freed. For I am the fruit that drips the nectar of nourishment from every tree of life, enlightening you as the Buddha's breath of interdependence and the kiss of the sunrise miracle blooms on the mouth of an orchid morning dew. I am who am. We are who are. Starchetypal rising. Glorious. Glow are us horizons. Starchetypal rising. Aho.
Thank you so much, Bear. This has been transporting through the dimensions to this future space. Thank you so much for sharing it.
I'd love to have people like throw in the chat whatever they're feeling or what's moving for them, and a word, an emotion, a poem, whatever it is, and just share that with the group,
Yes, absolutely, everybody. We would love to know. What do you feel? What do you think? Christine says, crying diamond tears.
Ooh, wow. I love that.
Roxanne says, feeling enthused, hopeful, and divine. Denise says, love. Yes, yes. Anamkara says, feeling inspired and deep gratitude. Tracy says, in love with all of this. Roxanne says, thank you. Yeah, thank you all for your beautiful comments here. Well, we are really excited to share that if this has been moving for you, if you would like to explore more and go deeper into how you might be able to create this kind of future village or this kind of future awareness in your own life and in your own community, Bear has a super special offering for you, and I will share my screen to help illustrate this. So he has put together an amazing course for the Quantum School. It is a 7-week journey called Starchetypal Rising, the AstroTheology Blueprint for Living as Your Highest Self. This will begin 2 weeks from today on November 5th, and it will run through December 17th. And we are just delighted and super excited to be bringing this forward to you. You can see that the possibilities are absolutely infinite and completely multidimensional here with what you could bring through. So Ver, I would love to know why are you so moved around all of this? What is so important to you about Starketopia? Just tell us from your own heart, why is this so important right now for us?
We can't go on the same way we've been living, you know, in a way we've been dying. Like, you know, the epidemic of loneliness and mental health, and go on a train anywhere and you know, in any city or a bus or anywhere in the public, and everyone is here with their phones. And we've been losing that connection more and more. And there's a craving, and we can see what's going on, especially in the US this whole year, right? Especially just last week when we had this big protests all over every city in the country. You know, people are rising up, you know, and we need to be aware that we are repeating patterns that are from different warlike periods in our history. And that means that we need to get activated to create what we want to create, and not that be about war and division, but to be about the kind of local resilient communities that continue to inspire and empower each other. And I'm excited about it because my work has always been about giving people the tools to know themselves as deeply and as powerfully and as connected to God consciousness as they can, so that they can offer their gifts in the most ripened version, right? And that's what this project is really all about. It's actually an initiative, right? Because initiative has this like fuel behind it, right? We want to do this, right? And so that's I'm pumped up about it, and it's something that's been with me, you know, in different seedlings since I really started astrology about 20 years ago.
Mhm. And could you tell us a little bit about the different modalities that are coming together here? It says a few in this segment of the page, but I know there's so many different kind of perspectives and wisdom traditions that you're bringing in.
Yeah, I mean, well, the different segments that we're going to have are going to be focused on different elements of this emergent society that we could create. And so the archetypes become a framework. The astrological archetypes are a framework, like a language or a vocabulary, a grammar that we can use in order to organize all of these other practices. So we talked about some of the therapeutic modalities, shadow work, shadow play, you know, or internal family systems. These will be folded into the archetypes. And same with the different theological or mystical traditions, where we have different teachings from the Gita or Taoism or Buddhism that we can bring in to each archetype, so that we can anchor ourselves back to source. And that's the goal here, is, you know, really hybridize these sacred traditions, these sacred languages. Human design is also part of this, locational astrology, to find that place, if that's calling us, that maybe is not where we are. So these pieces are woven into the larger framework of the archetypes, and we're going to have these polarities at play, where we talk about Aries Libra and Taurus Scorpio and Gemini Sag, and how they feed this vision of wholeness.
Yeah, amazing. And I want to go to that. I want to go to the astrological archetypes here. So excuse my scrolling, everybody. I'm going to move down the page now. Anna has put the link in the chat. So if you want to come here and check this page out at your own pace, you are welcome to do so. Just to let you guys know the logistics before we go into the modules and the archetypes, the classes will be held live on Zoom, so you can attend live if you would like to, but also there will be recordings of every class. So if you can't attend live, or maybe you can't attend all of them, don't worry, there will be recordings, and we will release them within 48 hours after each class is complete. And you can see that they'll be held on Wednesdays throughout November and December on these dates, as you see here, starting November 5th and going to December 17th. And classes will be maybe 2 to 2.5 hours each, as I know Ver has so much to share in every single class. So there will be so much to enjoy. And really do come here and check out this page at your own pace, because there's so much more here to tell you about the class and all that it includes. But we want to share with you about the modules here. So module 1 is called The Map, the Mythos, and Starchitecting Our Future Freedom. Ver, could you tell us a little bit about this first module?
Yeah, so we did sort of the micro version of that today, you know, where we're painting out the larger archetypal context of the cycles unfolding and how each of us can be an active contributor to the best version of these unfoldments, right? And what we want them to play with and to play out in the world in the coming years. And preparing for seeing it in the world in different forms, right? And being able to navigate that. And then we're going to introduce the Zodiac Village framework and how we can think of these as spaces of curriculum and design and play and performance, and really build these out. And this is something so important with this training, is that this isn't a top-down approach. This is everyone who's part of this is contributing, because you are a magician with your chart. You have all these archetypes built in, and you're able to craft and create them in this community in a way maybe you've never thought of your archetypes, embodying them, dramatizing them, experiencing them, dancing them out, and then they become these living archetypes, right? And then we connect that back to how spirit is woven into this, right? And this is the AstroTheology part of this. And so, yeah, then we'll also go deeper into these. I only mentioned the names of some of these sort of utopias or protopias in action. And we'll give you more examples so you could be like, wow, we could do this right here in my village right now. I can start this project, But the more examples you see of what is actually happening, that it is already here. We just need to model it.
Yes, amazing. And I think that's just so exciting how people will be able to take pieces from this course and start implementing them right away, and then it grows bigger and bigger over time. But to be able to start now is just so exciting. So here is module 2. This will be on November 12th. Courage, Communion, and the Temple Villages of Aries and Libra. And so now we're getting into the archetypes, everybody. So you'll see that these are the opposing archetypes on the zodiac wheel, right? That are in every module. So tell us all about module 2.
Also on the next 6 weeks then will be the polarities, and then within that we're going to weave in different practices that can help us fully ground and anchor Aries and Libra and start to paint them into these villages that we might create in our Micro-Starchetopias. So, with Aries Libra, we're definitely focused on the archetypes of the self and the other, or partnership, right? Sacred relating, in the integration of, interdependence versus the shadow of codependence. So we'll play with that, and we'll work a lot with the sacred feminine and divine masculine through Mars and Venus, and how they are represented in your chart, right? And how these energies of divine masculine and feminine want to merge and be expressed through you. And then we'll bring in some reflective journaling for the archetypes of Aries and Libra through the Bhagavad Gita and through Buddhist insight, especially around desire, ego, and right action, which are very much a part of the Aries archetype, right? And then through the Course in Miracles, we'll be looking at the idea of the special versus the holy relationship, and how we let go of that egoic need for these, attachments and holdings and, graspings, versus the holiness of, what are we here to do? I'm open to the great mystery, right? And we have some embodiment through martial arts, very, of course, Aries, and a few mere magic practices that you can take into your Libra journey. So it's going to be a very fun module.
Amazing. Amazing. So let's look at module 3 then. And this will be on November 19th. This one is called Embodiment, Alchemy, and the Temples of Taurus and Scorpio.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, that this language of astrology, it's a holistic language. You are not one sign. You are all the signs. All the signs rule different houses, different areas of your life. And this course is going to help you experience all of those parts of you, the multidimensional nature of who you are, right? So even if you're like, I'm not a Taurus or a Scorpio, no, it's not like that. We have all of these archetypes within us, and now we have to just understand how they're playing and dancing through us. And so big one with Scorpio Taurus is to work with the shadow, a shadow around money, around sensuality and control and vulnerability. We want to look at value. Taurus Scorpio is all about value. And so personal values, we start to create different kinds of currencies and kinds of ways we can exchange. We did a little mini version of that, right? What if all the archetypes could have a different currency, right? How could we bring that into a community, right? And then we want to do a lot of this deep karmic traumatic healing work with breath work. So we're going to have a special Scorpio breathwork journey, a shadow dance, and a somatic release practice. So very embodied work. And then because this is a science of sensuality and sexuality, we'll have a neo-tantric intimacy practice that I'll just teach you these rituals that you can bring into your connections with others, that will really open up the sensual nature of Scorpio and Taurus. And we'll work with some mantras and divine names to align with generosity and power, and work with some meditations on death, and work with Shaiva Tantra and Samurai philosophy for that, as well as crafting our 1 year left to live reflection. Super powerful practice.
Okay, amazing, amazing. And yeah, I think it is so important too what you pointed out there, that we're not just our sun sign, so everybody, you have a sun sign, you have a moon sign that's probably in a different sign than your sun, you have a north node, you have your Mercury, these are all probably in different signs. So you will find so much here for all the different aspects of you. And so then we have module 4 on November 26th, and it is called Storytelling, the Soul's Mystic Maps, and the Village Temples of Gemini and Sagittarius. So tell us more about that.
Well, Gemini and Sag are the two teachers of the zodiac, really, and so this is where we're going to really get into a revolutionary model of education, using astrology and design and thinking about how these, and giving language to, and everyone's going to contribute to this, but how we can create these Starchetopian villages where we use meta poetics and different kinds of language to liberate ourselves and create new possibilities of how we myth make, right? And this is where the storytelling of the kind of worlds we want to live in comes. We'll be given some prompts for creating some poems or some short stories about these solar punk visionary, villages we want to live in, and we'll be writing the world we want to live in. And so we'll also do that through some interesting therapeutic practices like cognitive behavioral therapy, logotherapy, and narrative therapy, right, as ways to frame the stories that we want to move into. We'll work with some Zen koans and Taoist practice and Sufi mystic poetry to inspire us. And I will discuss and share about astrolocality a lot more, and give some insights in how you can use it to find your power places on the earth. This is also part of Gemini Sag. These are the two big travelers of the zodiac. And so this will empower you to know some of the places that are really powerful for you.
Okay, wonderful. And then module 5 will be held on December 3rd. It is called Devotion, Destiny, and the Temples of Cancer and Capricorn.
Well, this one really excites me because there's so much here, because we're working with the polarity of sort of the family and the internal self and the inner child that we have to nurture. So we're going to have inner child journeying. We're going to work with those parts and parts theory of IFS and astrology, and do a regression practice to heal our family conditioning. But then at the same time, when we're thinking about Capricorn, we're moving into Saturn, we're moving into time, and this idea I'm going to share around time mapping and how to use the moon and the sun through your chart to understand your rhythms of wisdom, right? And that's very Capricorn, methodology, right? Accountability. Then we'll do a breakthrough breathwork around your sacred ambition. So we're going to get more into some career focus with this module, as well as looking at coaching and calling prompts. So how you can build structure into a business and entrepreneurial path, a coaching path. And so this will have some very strong career and even philanthropic legacy that we'll be addressing, and look at, tuning a lot to Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, and Saturn cycles and rites of passage according to Saturn. But then also we'll look at your family environment and work with your environment in human design, which is a lot about the best places you can be in to support living your design most fully, most functionally, and be feeling like you're most successful. So that's going to be a really cool element of design coming into that week.
Wow, this sounds really incredible. Really incredible. And then we will have module 6 on December 10th, which is Radiance, Revelation, and the Confident Revolutionary in the Leo and Aquarius Village.
Yeah. So sacred visibility and creative genius, this is where we find our community and we share our magical gifts. So we are going to work with, on one level, the Aquarian ideal of channeling the stars and our star families and working with the stars in our charts, which connects us to our starseed origins. It's going to be really interesting. And then also the asteroids and some of the myths that live in us. So other aspects of astrology that not everyone tunes into. And then we'll look at Aquarius through social permaculture and looking at the tech design and the design that we can bring into this 12 Starchetypal villages. With Leo, we're working a lot with the creative superpowers that each of us has and the Leo Leadership Lab. So we're going to look at how we can confidently lead and any blocks or challenges we have to really stepping up into our power. And this is where we'll look at the gene keys some, because they will show us our genetic gifts, our strengths to contribute to the world. So we'll share some about that, as well as get into the playful aspect of Leo and Aquarius, which is some zodiac dance and some astro drama to integrate the energies of your chart.
Okay, so beautiful. And for the final module 7 on December 17th, we have Imagination's Medicine, Healing and Wholeness with the Temple Villages of Virgo and Pisces. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, this is the soul axis, and this is going to be a really powerful journey since this is where the north and south node, the eclipses are right now. And so it's becoming essential that each of us are chiromancers. We're able to decode the signs and the symbols and the synchronicities in our lives and across the dimensions. So we're going to practice that muscle of reading the omens. And this is also where we'll discover more of this Akashic astrology. And this is where we can look at some of the past life energies in our charts. So we'll talk about the nodes a bit, and we'll explore karma and dharma through the birth charts. We'll be doing some forgiveness practices, so some great teachings from the Course in Miracles in this. And then we'll look at this other interesting element of design that's part of the variable, which is about your diet, which has a lot to do with your cognition, how you think and experience your design the best. So this will be the Virgo aspect of health coming in really strong, as well as a power animal medicine journey and entering the temple of the oversoul, right? The Piscean journey into multidimensional consciousness. And we'll do this through a guided hypnotherapy practice and a dream reentry journey.
Okay, wow. So you can see, everybody, that this will be such an incredible deep dive into every sign of the zodiac and the future potentials of how we can work with these archetypes, right? These incredible archetypes that we hold within ourselves, and then how do we manifest that in the highest frequency out into our world? So thank you, Ver, for creating all of this. I know, like you said, you've been working on this for many years, and bringing it all into fruition in this beautiful course.
Well, I'm so excited, and it's something we're all going to create together. I guess there's other things in those classes too. So
There's
please look
more.
at the page. Yeah. We couldn't go through all there's so many things, but
Even more.
not to overwhelm, but to really invite you to understand that it's like neuroplasticity. This is a language, astrology. It means the language of the stars. So we have infinite potentials of how we can play and practice this in the world. And that's this model of an eco-village or a neighborhood, right, that we can start to experiment this with. And for all of us, we can even just do it with our own children, our own family members, or our beloveds, if we just have a partner in our life, or we can explore and experience this this kind of way of experiencing these archetypes and playing them on the daily in our life. And so this language becomes very alive for us. And that's my goal with the training.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So I'm sure you're all feeling really moved by this. I know that I am, and I just want to give you guys the information on how to register if you would like to join us for this incredible journey in November and December. Now, here in the Quantum School, as you all know, we want to be working within the spirit of sacred economics and the sacred wealth revolution. We do not want there to be any financial limitation, okay, for anybody to join. We do want you to know that the regular price and the full value of this course, considering all of Ver's experience and his work as an astrologer and human design and all of these different modalities that he does and all that he's bringing in here, the true price of this is $1,111 US. And we invite everybody joining to donate the amount that feels right for you and that is right for you and your economics at this time. And in that way, everybody is fully in their sovereignty as they join. And this brings us such great joy to be able to offer these classes in this way in alignment with sacred economics. So when you're ready, and I think Anna will put the link in the chat once again so you can easily get to this page. When you're ready, go ahead and click this button here to submit your donation. And once you do so, you will automatically be registered for the class. Now be sure to register no later than October 29th at the end of the day, New York time. That is when registration officially closes. So if you have any questions in the meantime, you can write to us at hello@wearesacredplanet.com. We will get right back to you. And we can take your Q&A now, everybody, as well on the live call here. And if you're watching later and you have a question and you would like to type it into the YouTube chat, the YouTube comments, go ahead and do that. We will read all the comments. We will reply to you there. So feel free to write your questions in there as well. Okay, I will stop sharing my screen and let's check out the Q&A. I know one thing, there was a book you had mentioned that I think it was like the 5 Climate Futures or something like that. What is that book title and author? People were asking.
I'll pull it back up. Yeah, you can ask me another question. I'll pull it up real quick.
Okay. Let's see.
It's called Our Shared Storm, a novel of 5 climate futures.
And who is the author?
Andrew Dana Hudson.
Andrew Dana Hudson. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Janine says, thank you for your heartfelt vision, VerDarLuz. I feel connected with Neptune and wife Celestia, a mermaid calming the seas. Beautiful. Thank you, Janine. All right, I'm looking. And so if anybody has questions, please put them in the live chat here. I will check the live chat on Zoom and YouTube as well, so we can grab all of your questions.
Somebody asked a question. I don't know where it was, but it was something about God consciousness or something.
Okay, do you want to answer that one?
Well, I'd have to find, yeah, I'd have to
Oh,
find
you don't know
it.
what the question was exactly?
No, no. Yeah.
No, so
But
Anna
any other
has,
questions? Yeah.
yeah, Anna has reposted the time, but it will be 1 p.m. New York time for all the classes, all the live classes, always on Wednesdays, always at 1 p.m. New York time. And you can find all the details on that page, which the link is right there in the chat. If you're watching this later, the link will be just below the video in the video description field. Let's see.
Yeah, that question was, yeah, I mean, the reference to God consciousness, it's, as you could see, it's about, you know, for me, I've always been on the path of studying the universal traditions, or what's called the perennial philosophy. And the perennial philosophy is based in sort of non-duality, you know, and about mystic revelation, the Gnostic experience of being with the divine within ourselves. And so, yeah, like you could see with the course, we'll be pulling from a lot of different traditions, everything from the Bhagavad Gita, Shaiva Tantra, A Course in Miracles, Stoicism, some more just philosophical, samurai philosophy is very deep, rooted in Zen. And so we'll be pulling from all of these different traditions, Sufism, the 99 names, so that wherever we are on our spiritual path, we could hopefully multiply our connection to the divine and find new tendrils, to connect us back to source.
Beautiful. Paula says, feeling inspired, transformed, and energized to bring this dream to reality. That's great, Paula. And let's see.
Judy was asking something about connecting more. Maybe this is about astrolocality or planning out a purchase of land. So yeah, we could follow up. I guess if we just put I don't know if I could put my contact to have more of maybe a one-on-one consultation or something, but we can
Yeah,
share
do you want
that.
me to put your email
Yeah,
address?
yeah. And then also if there's other questions, people can reach out.
Okay.
The other thing that we didn't mention was that we are going to have a Facebook group, and that's going to ideally be a very active place and space for people to bring their what if questions, to bring their visions of possibility, to how they're working with the archetypes each week, and what they're imagining for these cycles coming in, what they're seeing all around them in their communities, how they're planting those seeds with people and their farm, their local farms, and whatever they're doing. And so I'm excited about that can be a way for us to grow it even more.
Yes, wonderful. I'm looking at the chat here. Jasna says, thank you so much.
Blessings.
Really inspiring.
Wonderful. Yeah. Blessings, Christina, from Synthesis. Long time ago. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's interesting. 2012 was such a big year, and that's where a lot of this got really seeded when I went to the Mayan pyramids in Chichen Itza for the end of the Mayan calendar. And, it's so important to vision into the future and to know that, inshallah, God willing, divine timing, a vision will happen. And that's why maybe it's not even us that will do it. Maybe it's the next generation, but we have to be planting these seeds literally and figuratively. So this is a call, right? This is an awakening. This is an invitation, and we all do it together. Every one of us has so many creative superpowers and so many resources, right? And so I invite you to really come and show up in all of your greatness and all of your inspiration and empowerment that you can give to the world and receive.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, it's like however it's going to play out time-wise, who knows? Maybe we just accelerate and all this can happen very quickly, in our lifetimes. But whether it's us or it's the next generations, we have to plant the seeds now. There's just no question about that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to share about the neighbors, where I'm in Ireland. Like it was just crazy because I got to this house and I'm on an art residency for a bit, and the hotspot is how you run the internet. And the first day I got here, like it didn't work, and I couldn't do anything. It was like being, like in a cave, isolated. Like, and I just like I didn't know what to do. I had to get to town to try to get a SIM card and the whole thing. And I knocked on the neighbor's door, and I didn't meet her before, and she really took me in and listened and helped, and ended up taking me into town later that day, and really like gifted me the ability to to get onto internet and work and research and all the things. But I love this example, and I'm in their house now because the internet was not so working, and this is the very epitome of what's going to happen. I mean, who knows, right? The blackouts that can be coming, anything can happen at any moment. And we don't want to wait for the emergency. We want to say we are already in the emergency. So let's now create what we need to survive and thrive with the people right next door to us or in our very home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful story. And it's all of us together, we're not going to do this each individually alone. It's not how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know we're getting near the end of our time here. let's take one more question, which is a question that I'm sure many people are wondering here that Linda is asking. Will we pull up our astrological chart? She's also asking about gene key charts. Will people pull up their charts when they, with the course?
Yes, the first class you'll be sent a video about, even if you don't have your chart, how to pull it up on astro.com. And every week we will be exploring specific elements of your chart, how these archetypes fit in, where you're more constellated. That's one of the whole purposes of this, is to see where you are contributing to this. And so we really want to share in that recipe of the archetypes that are going to be on each call. So yes.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Ver, for all that you have shared with us today and for creating this incredible course that everybody will get to experience throughout the next couple months. We're so grateful to you. Thank you for bringing this to the Quantum School. It is very exciting.
It's been amazing to share this with you, and it's been such an education just the last couple months preparing for this and learning so much. I'm so inspired to know what's happening, and I feel like this is the kind of purpose we need to have. We need to get really motivated, right? And not be apathetic and not think that it's, all just kind of being destroyed or, going down. And in fact, we're rising up, and it requires a deep desire in our souls to know what's possible. And that means each one of us has to take responsibility.
Yeah, and if we focus on the positive, we will create the positive. That this is
Yeah. The
such
law of attraction. Yeah.
that we each have. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for all of it, and can't wait for your course to begin. So everybody come on in and join. We know that you will love everything you receive here in this amazing course from VerDarLuz.
Thank you, guys. So many
Okay.
blessings. All right.
Yes. Thank you to everybody watching and attending. So much love to you all out there. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, VerDarLuz. Great to be here.